Hi, welcome. Today we have Lisa. Lisa, how do you say your last name for everybody?
Montrose.
Montrose. Okay.
Yes. And to clarify, I'm married into the dash. Like it actually existed before we got married. And
Got it.
so,
It's a
yep,
dashed name already.
it was already there.
Yes. Awesome. Love it. I'm so excited to talk to you today because like we just got connected through the
Mhm.
ClickFunnels community like this year, like back in the springtime, I think, like after the Mexico trip.
Yeah.
And
Which it's
so
crazy to me that we've never connected before there.
I
I
know.
don't know how we've missed each other through whatever time, but like,
Yeah.
yes, in March.
So, and I just have to tell everybody that, like, as soon as I kind of met Lisa a little bit virtually, I was like, oh, she speaks my language. I love this. Is like, I just love nerding out with other moms who love
I
family
love it.
systems. And Lisa is such a genius. Like, she's created so many cool things that other families can use, and it's replicable. And yeah, so I can't wait for her to share that kind of stuff with you guys. But first, I want everyone to kind of get to know you. So, first, tell us a little bit about you, where you grew up, where you live now, what your family's like, your kids' ages, all that kind of thing. But first, start with you.
Okay, good. How much time do we have?
I know.
So I'm actually originally from Montana. Absolutely love that I am from there. I feel like it sort of created an amazing foundation for just my life. But of course, when I was 22, 23 years old, I needed to get out of Montana. So headed out to Seattle, lived there for 20 years, met my husband there, and then we moved to Arizona in 2020, in the summer of 2020. Best move we've ever made. I know Brenda, you're in Arizona as well, but it's like, how are you in a bad mood if you wake up to sunshine pretty much every day?
Yep.
I was like, how have I not lived here before? But I've worked almost every single job you can possibly imagine. One of our neighbors laughs because every time we talk about some sort of career, I'm like, oh, I did that. I did that. Because I've always wanted to do everything, which I still also want to do everything. Like anytime an opportunity comes up, I'm like, yes, I want to do that. And I want to be a part of that. How do I fit that in? Like right before this, I was at the daddy daughter dance committee meeting at my kids' school because I'm like, well, I want to be a part of that and I want to be a part of this. So pretty much story of my life, which is also kind of how we ended up creating the systems that we created. Because if you want to do it all, you cannot live in chaos. And in all fairness, I still live in chaos some of the time, but I do my best to keep it all a system. But now my husband and I have been married for 10 years. We ran a business together up in the Pacific Northwest. We sold that business in 2021, finished up our transition contract with them at the end of 2020 or in the middle of 2023. And so here we are off onto our next venture, which is about four different businesses. All good stuff and fun though. As far as kids go, I have a 22-year-old stepdaughter, a 19-year-old stepson. My daughter's 17, and then we have an hours of kids, and we have a 9-year-old daughter and a 7-year-old son. So we're very, very busy. Our 7, 9, and 17-year-old live with us. Our 19-year-old lived with us last year, but now he's going to ASU. So he decided he wanted to be a real adult and move out of our house because we still have rules in our house. And it's not very much fun when you're an adult and you have like kid rules.
That's fine.
So that's
Awesome.
sort of the nutshell of all of it. Lots of moving parts.
Yes. Yes. I didn't realize you guys were so new to all these transitions. That's
Yeah,
cool.
but we live in that world of just moving, so it
Yeah.
doesn't feel so new. And we've everything we've started that we're doing now, we actually started a couple of years ago.
Okay.
So it's not new, it's just new publicly, if
Right.
that
There's like all
makes
this
sense.
overlap. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Right.
Very, yeah. And you guys are a very adventurous family, just like we are. So for you, it's like not as crazy. It's like it's fun. It's always
Yeah.
fun. Little moving things are always fun. Yeah.
Well, and I don't know, like we don't know how to rest. Like it's one of the things we don't do. And anytime I'm resting, I'm like, what can I do? I need to figure out something to do. So
Yeah.
it's always an adventure. We don't
Yeah.
mind being busy.
I'm like I always say that I'm a hummingbird. So
Yeah.
even when I'm resting, I'm still kind of like wiggling a little bit,
I
kind of.
can't even sit and watch a movie. My family gets so frustrated with me because I'll sit for like 10 minutes and I'm like, I'm sure I could go wipe the counter down or I could do something else and still watch the movie.
Yes. Yeah.
Constantly moving.
I started just making like every time I sit down, I like make myself a cup of tea that's different than my regular cup of tea. And I tell myself like I just have to sit and finish this tea before I can get up.
Do you know that makes my heart hurt? Like being trapped sitting. I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel so trapped. It makes my heart hurt to even think
I
about that.
never, yeah, I never sit either. I never do, but I know it's good for me. And I
I
know
know.
when I actually am still, it's when a lot of brilliant things come. Like a lot of like the things surface that if I like just stop and I like listen to whatever is going on
Yeah.
in my brain, yeah, some like really cool ideas, some just really aha moments happen for me. So I know it's good for me to sit still, but I also know that a lot of good comes from all my movement. Like I'm like a momentum person and I get so much goodness out by having that momentum. So I totally get it. And that's so funny about how you've had like every job ever
Every
because
job.
I am also that person in college. Like this is probably not very PC, but for everybody who knows Brenda, you know that I'm not. And so I do you remember the show In Living Color back in the
Yeah.
day? And do you remember there was a one skit where it was like talking about like there was like the Jamaican family and they're like making fun of the guy because he only has one job. And they're like, what are you lazy? You only have one job? Like, I'm probably doing a terrible job of this. But anyway, so when I was in college, I was that person who I would be taking classes, but also picking up, I'd be like, oh, I don't have any hours at my job on a Friday evening. And this place needs somebody on Fridays. So I would
Yeah.
get that job. And then, oh, wait, but then now like the flower shop needs people for Mother's Day and Valentine's Day. So I would do that. And so then I would have like my roommates would laugh at me because whenever you get all your W-2s come tax time, I would have like 13 W-2s for 1 year. Not because I got fired and had to get new
Right.
jobs, but I worked all of them all at the exact same time. And anyways, they would laugh at me and they would be like, you're like the Jamaican person, the Jamaican family from In Living Color.
Well, and mine was like, I mean, I had a job at a tanning salon when I was in high school, right? Because I went there, which is also not good. I'm not promoting tanning salons, but I was
But back
17
then,
and
yeah.
whatever it was. But I went there and they needed someone to fill in a couple shifts. So I was like, of course I'll work here. And I was working at a clothing store and I was working at a video store. I mean, it was just, I get offered jobs and I rarely interviewed for a job. So actually, when I moved to Seattle, it was the first time I had to job hunt.
Mm-hmm.
Prior to that, I had always had one or two jobs going at the same time, and I kept getting offered new positions at other places. So when I moved to Seattle, I was very naive. I had $350 in my bank account. I had paid my first month's rent, so I was good there, but I had $350, right? And I was like, well, I'll
Yeah.
get a job like today.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it took 3 weeks. So that was very eye-opening to me of,
Ah,
oh, okay, life is a little bit
what it
different
might
than
be
I
really like. Yeah.
thought.
Yeah.
But I never interviewed for anything. I just got offered jobs at a lot of the places I frequented.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I know what you mean. Because you're like bubbly and you probably just they were like, yes, we need you because you'll sell stuff
yeah,
for us. Yeah.
and I loved it. And I actually loved working from an early age. I started my first W-2 position when I was 14. Because in Montana you can. And so I learned like being able to make money and the power of that and the
Mm-hmm.
freedom that money gave you, which is also what we still stand by. Like our lives are not about like I don't want to be rich for the sake of being rich. It's
Yeah.
the freedom that money as a tool provides. And I
Yes.
learned that very young. And actually both Alex and I have been entrepreneurs gosh, for years. I mowed lawns. Like, I mean, I would take my dad's lawnmower, take it down the street. We had real lawns in Montana. I've learned in Arizona, like one out of every 75 houses has a real lawn.
I have a
So
real
that
lawn.
do you?
I'm the grass master at our house because I just seeded for winter rye like a month ago, and I go out there and I am like, yes, it's looking wonderful.
You're good. I take a the leaf blower and I blow off the flowers off my lawn. That's the only thing I do because our lawn is plastic.
Yes.
Um, it's not
Yeah.
real. But when I was a kid, I mowed lawns and I would just like walk down the street and I'd knock on the doors and say, hey, do you want your lawn mowed? And I only charged $5 at the time. But I mean, it was just the freedom of like, I'd mow a lawn and then I could hop on my bike and go to the store and buy a candy bar. And it was
Yeah.
my money. I didn't have to ask someone else for it. I loved it.
Yeah. And I think that's the same for me. Like when I was in college, I felt like, oh, there's this concert coming up, or oh, I want to go on this trip with my friends. And so I was like, well, I'll just go make that money. It was
Yeah.
never, for me, it was never like this feeling of like, well, there's no way I can ever do that because it's too expensive or I can't afford it. I'd be like, okay, well, how can I make this happen?
Right.
You know, like, oh, I want to go on a cruise with my friends. I've never been on a cruise before. How much does it cost? Okay, I can make payments. Great, let's do it. You know,
Right.
like I can earn that each month and make the payment, and then there we go. Yeah, like our wedding, I like went and got an extra job to pay for our wedding. And so it's funny, like looking back now, there's a lot of things where like I'm like, oh, why am I not in that picture? Oh, why, like, where was I? And my husband's like, oh, remember that's like when you went and got that job, like giving out samples of wine at grocery stores to pay for our wedding. So, you know, it was like, I'm gonna go talk to people and they're gonna pay me for it. So it's perfect. Yeah. Yeah. So like that spirit, you know, it's like, I love that. It's like you have it all along. Now as like a mom, I'm sure you see that in your kids. So what kind of conversations do you guys have to foster that same like entrepreneurial spirit and that like can do, like, yeah, you can always go out and create your own wealth. Like what kind of conversations do you have around that?
So it's one of the things we've really, really tried to instill in our kids, and it's been interesting how they've absorbed it. Um, a lot, but all of our kids still have, at least our older ones, still have a little bit of the W-2 mentality. I will say of just like, oh, well, I need to get a job. And we are constantly like, okay, but what do you love to do? Here's how you could turn that into a business and you could do something you love so it doesn't feel like work. So we're constantly working on that with them. But they all want the college experience also. And I completely get that because like college for me was 4 of the best years of my life because I wasn't an adult, but I was an adult. So I had the independence, but I still had like a cushion, right? That I
Yes.
could fall back on. I didn't have to just be thrown into the real world. Um, but I will say, like, my 17-year-old has an entrepreneurial spirit. And I do believe it's something you either have or you don't. You can develop it if you don't, but you either have it or you don't. But my 17-year-old, I think when she was 12, she wanted to buy an iPad. She was 11 or 12, maybe younger. I can't even remember now. But her dad told her, like, if you can raise X amount of dollars, I'll pay for the rest of it. He goes, but you only have until Friday. And it was Monday, and it was something like $200. And sure enough, my daughter was like, she made slime at the time. She actually had an Etsy shop that she sold slime. And so she hustled and she sold slime all week long. And by Friday, she had $200. And her dad, I don't think expected that because he's like, oh my gosh, now I have to come out of pocket the next $200. And I still see that entrepreneurial spirit in her as she goes into college and what she's planning on doing. The little ones, I think, see it more. I call them the little ones. They're 9 and 7. They're not really
Yeah.
little, but compared to the kids.
Right. Yeah.
But
Let
like
me get,
even,
yeah.
yeah. But even our 9-year-old, what I love about the school that they go to, they have a thing called Startup Club. And so for the last few months, she applied, she got accepted. She's creating her own business. She's making earrings. And so then on December 9th, they have a whole market that people can come shop and buy her goods. But it's been amazing actually watching the videos with her. And they're only like 10-minute videos. And there's been a series of 6 of them teaching them what it actually means to be an entrepreneur and how to steward your money. And like it's just been really, really cool. They're even teaching them sales pitches. And I'm like, this is so awesome. And so that's been fun because they've seen us, I don't know that our kids even understand what we do, but they've seen us working and building our own thing. And so to give them that opportunity too. So I love that the school is supporting that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Is that a public school, charter school, private school?
Private school.
Private school. Yeah,
Yeah.
my kids go to a charter school and they have this Saturday is their winter bazaar where it's like that. It's like a
Okay.
maker fair where all the kids, they have to pay for a booth, but then they get
Yeah.
to sell their stuff and they have to submit an application and show what they're
Yeah.
going to be selling and that whole thing. And they don't have any classes with the videos like that, but I think that is brilliant.
Oh, it's amazing. And I actually want to talk to the school about it and say, do you know that you could take this outside of the school and offer this? Because
Yeah.
they are so well done of what they're doing and what they're teaching these kids. It's amazing. And I love even they even told them because she had to take a loan out from us to buy the supplies to make her earrings. And
Mhm.
I'm also very cheap labor. I've been helping her. I'm like, I'm working for free. But when I was talking to her about the money, because yesterday she didn't want to work, right? She just wanted to like play with her brother. And I'm like, but you have to work because now you have this business. I'm like, I'm only asking you to work for an hour. And I go, it's going to be worth it when you start to make money off of your business. And she goes, yeah, but I have to pay you. And I'm like, yes, you have to pay back the loan, but everything above that is yours.
Mhm.
So I'm excited for the actual market where she gets to see that come to fruition, because none of us want to work, right? Like, I mean, we all prefer to be sipping margaritas by the pool for a short amount of time, and then we'd get very, very bored, I'm sure. But it's good to teach her, like, you have to work, and then here's the reward, and the reward comes later.
Yeah.
It's
And
not instant.
and when you're an entrepreneur, it's like because I used to work corporate, I used to work in finance. And so you show up and there was the days where you are like, I don't feel like being
Yeah.
here. And so you're like just browsing and you make a few phone calls and you answer a few phone calls and you go and you visit with people in the other cubicle. And it's just like a half-assed day. And but you're showing up and you're like, oh, well, I'm here, right? And it's very like employee mentality,
Yeah.
right? Like they're not getting the full employee that day. They're not getting the full you that's contributing to the team. Your energy's low, like you're not the output. It's just like you're not there for them. You're just there because you have to be there. But whenever you're an
Right.
employee or employee, like when you're an entrepreneur, then you start to realize you still have days that you have that exact same feeling where you're like, ugh, and you want to just do the like, what can I piddle around with? What can I scroll? But if you do that, the compounding effect is not going to happen for you. And so like
Right.
taking those little incremental steps. And so you almost have to learn how to hack yourself and figure out like, okay, what is it that gets me out of that bad energy and into the good energy? What brings my momentum back so that I can be productive again? Because I have to show up and I have to take these steps for me, because my 3 month
Yeah.
later self, my 1 year later self isn't going to be where I want to be if I don't take these steps today. And so for me, I've had to learn where it's like, make myself tea, put on an actual outfit, like
Yeah.
put on good music, even put on the essential oils that are like the brain stimulating ones. Like I have to create this whole environment for myself that like gets me going. And then once I go, I'm like, yeah, flow state, right? But it's just so funny. Like I think it's such a good skill. Like the entrepreneurial journey teaches you so much about yourself that whenever you are an employee and you don't really see your purpose and you're like, I'm doing this for someone else, it's not really for me, I'm just doing it to make money because I have to, like you don't learn all those ways to
Uh-uh.
be your best self at all times. And so I have just loved this. I worked corporate, I was like, the employee mindset, even though I already always had kind of an entrepreneurial spirit. Like I was that annoying employee that for like everyone listening that used to work with me, like I was always that annoying employee that was like, how can we make this better, guys? Yeah, I know we do it this way, but what if we did this other thing also and made it even better? And everybody's like, leave it alone, Brenda, stop. But yeah, so I was always like trying to
Yeah.
optimize, trying to like make things more efficient. And it's like, well, why do we have all these people? We could do it with just these amount of people, and then those people can do this separate project. And so I just love like now then being the stay-at-home mom for a while, and then now my own entrepreneur journey. It's just been like all these different facets of learning more and more about myself and how to be a mom, but really just like, who am I and how
Yeah.
can I make a difference? And then how can I use what I'm learning about myself and teach it to my kids so that they don't have to wait until they're my age to learn it. Like, let's start. Yeah, it's such a journey. It's so cool.
Well, and I love that you mentioned hacks. So like we all either have or should have the hacks of like, okay, but I don't feel like doing something. And I think it was Mel Robbins said, stop waiting for your feelings, right? Because like you're just not going to feel like stuff. You have to find a way to like your feelings, yes, they matter, they're valid, but they don't matter. Like they just don't. You have to still do things. I have a soundtrack. So the Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse soundtrack, as soon as I put that on, I'm like, okay, I've got almost an hour and it's a little bit, I think it's just a little bit under an hour. But I know once I put that on, I've conditioned my brain that like once you hear the Spider-Man soundtrack, like you're on go mode. And I can get so much done when I do that. And it's because my little guy loves Spider-Man. And so I've grown a love for him because it's just it I don't know, it's one of those things. And that's my motivating soundtrack. So that one, and then I turn everything into a game when I don't want to do something, right? Because I I am very good at details, but I also don't like being the one to execute the details. And so when I have to get in and do something tedious. Like I'm working on a newsletter right now and it is tedious of like, put the picture here, all of the design stuff, which is not, I mean, I have to sit still, which is very difficult for me. So I'm like, okay, I'm only going to do this for 15 minutes and I'm going to do as much as I can in 15 minutes. Well, and what happens is you get into a rhythm of doing it and usually end up just finishing what you needed to do. So I turn literally everything into a game. And
Yeah.
that's the same thing, like even in our house, when, you know, because I have like the one room that ends up collecting all the stuff. It's usually my master closet. And I'm like, here's the Amazon boxes, here's whatever it is. And then my master closet is overflowing with stuff, which I need much less of. And Black Friday was not good for us because now like there's new Amazon boxes. But I'll do the same thing where it's like, okay, I have 15 minutes. I'm going to do as much as I can in 15 minutes. But you get it kicks you into that rhythm. Because when you
Yeah.
look at like a room, any room, like take a craft room, right? That a lot of people have, and you look at it and you're like, I have to clean this up. Where do I start? Or even after Thanksgiving. Like, I don't know if your kitchen looked like mine after Thanksgiving dinner, but it literally was like, okay, where do I start?
Well, my
But you,
house manager came on Friday, so
no. So I did it, but I did it all the day. I did it like
yeah.
before everyone even left. I just cleaned the kitchen up and visited while I went, but it's just getting started.
Yeah, like the 15-minute, it's like a 15-minute
Yeah.
game, right? Like
Yeah.
it's like play the 15-minute game and then
And see
next
what
thing you
happens.
know, it's done. Like,
Yeah.
yeah. I think it's like Gretchen Rubin on the Happier podcast. She has a thing called the 1 minute rule. And so it's like right before you're going to bed or like, right before you sit down to read your newspaper or whatever, like these kind of transitionary times where she like does this thing where she's like, okay, I have 1 minute, just pick up as many things as
Yeah.
are in front of me and go put them where they actually belong. Then go sit down and read my newspaper. Then,
Yeah.
have my coffee, whatever it is. So she does like this 1 minute rule because then if she puts a sprinkling of 1 minutes in her day, then everything's all cleaned up and it's not
Yep.
overwhelming anymore. I love that. I thought like, oh, that's so great. And then she also has, I think, where it's like power hour, like on a weekend where it's like, okay, power hour, we're just going to like try and like crank through as much as we can in 1 hour, and everybody in the house, it's like set a timer, and then when it's done, it's done. Like, no,
Yeah.
we're not keep going because then we burn out, and then we
Yep.
feel like we don't want to do it next time because we're like, that turned into 3 hours, we don't want to do it. So then
It's
yeah,
just
so
1 hour.
yeah, it's like Pomodoro method, right? Like
Yeah.
when I sit down and I work, I will go so deep focus that like I won't drink any water. I won't get up to pee. I like get like Zoom brain cross-eyed because I'm like just staring at this and I never go and like get fresh air or look far away at the sky or something. So I have to set my little timer, and I have my little like time timer like the kids
Yep.
use for their homework and stuff. And I set it for an hour. And when that goes beep beep, then I'm like, okay, stop what you're doing right now. Like go and come back. And I used to be like, oh, but I'm in such momentum and I'm so like, I'm in the zone right now. I don't want to lose it. But it was like this magical thing would happen where it's like, you go outside, you like look far away, you get some fresh air, and then all of a sudden, like, you're like, oh, I got a great idea. And you come back and then you like bump up even higher, and then you bump up even higher. So it's like another way to hack yourself where
Yep.
you feel like, I can't take a break or I'll lose my momentum. It's like you actually get even better skill sets each time you step away. It's magical.
Well,
So
it's giving it because it gives your brain a chance to reset. And like
yeah,
I've tried the timer method, but my body actually tells me, like I'm not kidding you when I tell you I cannot sit. Like if I'm sitting for too long, like even right now, I've been sitting for like 45 minutes, right? And I'm like, oh my gosh, my body's like, okay, we're ready to move.
you need
So
like the
my
desk
body really,
that goes
I need
the treadmill here.
something. Like I've thought about it. I used to have a bike that had a like a stationary bike that it was a desk bike. And
Yeah.
so I would sit on that and I would work because it's just my body just has this need to move.
Yeah. Well, now they have like the Ray-Ban Meta glasses, right? So pretty soon we can just be like walking and like having a Zoom meeting with our.
That's insane. That's too much for me. I can't, like, I'm not ready for that yet.
It's like you're talking about doing the layouts of your newsletter, and I'm like, where is that future movie? Remember where they're like swiping and
Yeah.
and they're like standing up, and there's this whole like, your whole body is like rearranging things on a screen. I'm like, where's that? I want one of those.
Which
Where
would
are
actually make it much quicker
Yes.
than
Isn't it
trying
like
to
a
draw a
whole
text
body
box.
thing?
And yeah,
Oh,
just let me put
I know,
things where
because
they
it's
need
like
to
I
go.
can. It's like this sometimes. I'm like,
Yeah.
can't get it to go where I want it to go. Yeah,
Yeah.
so funny. All right, so I know that you're really into fitness, nutrition, But the first thing I want to ask you is, because I know all of us who love fitness and nutrition, we have a secret snack that we hide that's like our special snack. And so I think I saw you post about this and I was like, yes, I totally do that too. What is your secret snack and where do you hide it?
Oh my gosh, I wish I could narrow it down to one. The big joke in my entire life has been Oreos. And those are like, but I actually don't buy them because I, embarrassingly enough, can eat the entire package like in one sitting. Because what happens, and I actually have studied now the science behind sugar, so I know why it happens, but I'll have one and then I want another one. And so I just keep going back for more. Sugar is one of those things for me. Some people have an addiction to sugar and some people don't. It has to do with the way your brain works and
Yep.
processes it, right? I have the addiction.
Yeah.
So like mine is Oreos, but I typically like don't buy them because I know that I'm gonna go crazy. The one I think you're talking about is probably the red vines because that's the other
Oh, right.
one.
Yes. Yeah. Red vines.
And we keep all of our candy up high. It's so funny, like
We
with
do
our kids,
too.
like our
Yeah.
candy and our sugar because our kids can't reach it,
Yeah.
right? But
We
like
do
I
same
don't
thing.
set a
Like
good
Halloween
example
candy.
either.
There's every holiday up there right now. People
Oh
are
my
like,
gosh.
how do you still have Easter up here? I'm like, we don't eat a lot of it. We pull it down like, okay, pick one treat.
Oh, see, that's what I do with my kids, but I don't have the control to do it, so I just have to stay away and can't start. But I would
Yeah.
say my secret treat would be Oreos, and usually they're stashed in the candy bin up high.
Yep.
That's my
Yeah.
spot.
My husband is like the like he'll whatever the package size is of the sugar
Yeah.
is the portion. And then I'm
Yeah.
like the like break a little piece off and just walk around the house and savor it. And I tell him, why don't you just like break a piece off and savor it? And he's like, what? No,
What are you talking about?
can't do that. That's not a thing your body can do. So it's
No,
like, yeah,
I'm with him. I'm like for sure with him where it's like, no, the whole package, if I buy the family size package of Oreos, that's one serving for
yes,
me.
yes. But I bring this up because I know in the mom area, there's like super fit moms who are like fitness, nutrition, like they're really disciplined with this, like yourself. And then there's a lot of moms who struggle in this area and they see the fitness moms and they're like, ah, why can't I do that? And I think it's important for everyone to understand that even like the fittest, most like nutrition focused people still have these weaknesses. And it's still something that all of us are constantly trying to hack ourselves and figure out like, how can I not eat a whole thing of Oreos? Or like, or you do, you're like, yeah, I'm going to treat myself to a thing of Oreos today. And you're intentional about it. Like it's
Yeah.
okay to also do that. And so I think it's important for us to all like just connect and realize we're all human in this. There's not like, it's not like a separate existence that some moms live, like the, you know, the fit moms and the ones who want to be more fit. And, you know, it's like we all are on this same journey. We all have
Yeah.
these same battles. We all have to make these same decisions on a regular basis. And everybody's just doing the best they can. And so that's why I think it's so important for us to like talk about like our little secret foods. And oh
Well,
my,
and realistically, so like I mean, in life in general, and I used to sell houses and I would tell people the same thing is like, look for 85%. If you can hit 85%, you're winning. Because the problem is when you try to hit that 100%, the moment you fail, you give up because
Mhm.
you fall short of perfection. Nobody, even the most fittest people out there, right? Like especially when it comes to food and nutrition, they still enjoy something now and then. And you have to give that to yourself. So I mean the other thing that I've learned over time, your brain doesn't actually understand the word don't. Like it doesn't understand it. So you tell yourself don't eat candy, all your brain hears is eat candy.
Yep.
And so you just want more of that. And so there, I mean, that's kind of the hack with it too, is like as soon as you say don't, all your brain hears is what's after it. And so it makes you crave and want more of that. But it's also give yourself the permission to have it.
Mhm.
Because otherwise, and I did this my entire life. I have been up and down the scale. I have been every size known to man. And I would lose the weight for like 2 or 3 months, but then something would happen and I would go right back to the way that I used to be because it was so strict that I couldn't stick to it.
Right.
And so that is the key when it comes to your health and nutrition, like in all of it, aim for 85%. and
Yeah.
you're winning, and give yourself like the grace to have that 15% that's not perfect. And that comes anything, especially moms. So I know you and I both have a heart for moms, and most of the people listening here are moms, but like we take on the role of everything. Like
Mm-hmm.
we just naturally do. And then we feel like we're failing in every area because we're not hitting 100% anywhere. Right? Like you can't. You're not hitting 100% at work. You're not hitting 100% as a parent. You're not hitting 100% for yourself. Aim for 85% and call that a win.
Yeah.
And some
Totally.
days that
Or
85%,
progress. I'm
yeah,
like, you know what? I'm 5% better than yesterday. Win.
yes. And it's like, it's this idea of we have to be perfect at everything, which is where we don't make any progress at all because the moment we don't hit that, we give up.
Right. Yeah. I grew up in a very perfectionist household. So I was like recovering perfectionist in my adulthood
Yeah.
and learning that I don't, like when growing up, I had to get straight A's. And if I got an A-, I had to answer for it. And it was like a 3-hour lecture of like how I'm destroying my life by getting an A- instead of an A+. And it's like so much pressure. And so in my house, I'm like the complete opposite. I tell my kids, grades don't matter. What matters in our house, I mean, I know for some families that does, like
Yeah.
there's so many circumstances, and some families, like there's a different family structures that like that is something that's really going to move the needle for those kids. But in our household, for everything else that we're doing, I tell the kids, hey, listen, grades don't matter. What matters is that you are enjoying learning and that you always want to learn more, because that's going to serve you more in life, is like wanting to know more about this
Yeah.
thing. And so I'm like, I don't even care if you get an F. If you fail a test, you are still learning from that. And if you want to continue learning more about why you failed that is exactly worth it, right? Like just keep like fail all you want, get whatever grades you want. And so the kids will set their own goals for like they want to get the little certificate for
Yeah.
honor roll and stuff like that, just because they get excited to like see I put in this amount of work and I get this affirmation back, or these accolades to show it's a tangible thing to show for like all the work they did. And so they like it, but I'm like, that's on you. That's completely your goal. And if you ever want to not do that, that's totally okay with me. I just
Yeah.
want you to keep learning your whole life. Just be a lifelong learner and always want to learn more.
I
That was
love that. So I'm also like, and I was a straight A student. So like it's hard for me to transition out of that, which it probably is for you too, where it's a little bit of a battle. And even sometimes the kids will come home with something less than an A or an F, right? And it's in my initial reaction is, how did you get an F? Like, did you not even try? But what we've shifted in our house instead of focusing on grades is you have to have all your work done. You have to put the work in,
yeah.
and then we can talk about like, do you want to improve the grades? Do you want to do whatever? I love the learning. Like that's awesome. Like focusing on learning because that is such a skill in life. Our
Yeah.
focus so far has been really like, did you do the work?
Yes.
Because if
Because
you did the work and you failed, that's
yeah.
a different story. But if you didn't even bother putting the work
Right.
in, we need to talk.
Yeah. Because it's like if you don't even try, right? Because part of it's
Right.
like, I don't care if you fail as long as you tried and you put
Right.
something out there. Like you're like, okay, this is how I think the assignment's supposed to go. This is how I understand it. I'm going to put this out there. Because I don't want them to feel like, well, if they don't get it right, they shouldn't try at all. Like they can be wrong
Right.
and still try. But I'm like, if you don't even sit down and pull your paper out and start putting something on the piece of paper, no, like then we're going to crack down. But
Yeah.
yeah, I just feel like I don't know. I think I mean I don't struggle with it as much as I have to maybe I'm like so extreme opposite of what I grew up, right? It's like you end up like completely going against the way you grew up, that then you have to kind of come back to the middle.
Yeah.
And so that's for me where sometimes I get where I'm like, it's fine, nothing matters. And then I'm like, okay, it does matter.
So in my family never put the pressure on me. Grades were never a thing that my family did. It was very much self-inflicted.
Your
And
own
from
goals.
an early age, like I remember, this is embarrassing. I was probably in fifth grade and we took the Iowa basics, which were like the standardized tests. Those were the ones that we took. And there was one section that had four questions. And one of them, I knew the right answer. I just accidentally circled the wrong thing. So I got a 75% on that section because there were only four questions. I'm in fifth grade and I start sobbing in class. And my teacher's like, I don't even know what to do with this kid. Like, And it had absolutely nothing to do with like expectations or pressure from my family.
Right.
It was 100% mine
Yeah.
that I owned.
But you're
So I
like,
wonder
I
if like,
know this.
I'm like, but I knew the answer, which also kind of translates to like my need to be right in life. So it's a good lesson for me too of like, you don't have to be right.
Yeah.
But I think it comes more from like being right than it
Yeah.
does the actual grade.
Yeah.
So, I mean, who knows? There's a lot of psychology. Like we all had our childhoods, right? And I mean, I could psychoanalyze myself forever and probably never get anywhere.
Yeah. But you know what? This is, you know, one of the coolest things that I've learned about myself, is the older I get and the longer I'm a parent, the better my own childhood is.
Yeah.
Because I look back and some of the things that I saw as challenges back then, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is such a gift. Oh, there's
Yeah.
another gift. And that's another gift. And so it's like, as you keep going, you really start to look through it through a new lens and really see that every obstacle and challenge that you had as a kid was there to give you the gifts that you needed for this moment and this part of your life. And so, yeah, it's like now it's like, I'm like, oh my gosh, my childhood keeps getting better and better. Like the longer I go,
Well,
like,
and you appreciate your parents more, or at least I have as I've gotten older. Because, like, I mean, there's so much that was instilled in me that came from my parents and just the way that they lived, the example that they set that I thought was the standard. And
yeah,
so that, and those gifts that they give you, and sometimes some of it you didn't like very much. Like we had cleaning day on Thursdays. I hated it. Like I never wanted to do it. And my sister, if you ever get a hold of her, she'll tell you stories about my cleaning skills when I was younger, but I'll save that one. Um, but you do appreciate your parents. And like my family instilled in me a work ethic that I appreciate so very, very much
mm-hmm.
because that's what drives me is like knowing I'm doing a good job.
Yeah.
And that came from
Like
my
you were saying,
parents.
where you could just go out and find
Yeah.
a job and you know, and you enjoy doing whatever it is that you're doing because you're curious and you want to learn more
Yeah.
and you really want to like help build with whatever you're working on. Yeah.
Yeah.
I had like, so my childhood, my mother, she was great when we were young. And then she really started to decline as we got older. And so she became not a good parent at all by the time we were all older. But now I can see like the gifts in that to me is just like realizing how much like she was so isolated, how little support she had, how her mental health issues were, like it just
Yeah.
declined worse and worse by not having any interaction with other people or not collaborating on a team and using her superpowers. And, like she just really kind of lost herself. And so I got to just see the consequence of like all the things that I'm trying to do now is because I don't want moms out there to turn into her,
Yeah.
or I don't want kids to have moms like that. And so like I was so blessed because I grew up on a ranch. And so it was our house, the barn, and then my Nana's house. And so I would just go to the barn and play, or I would go over to my Nana's house. And I spent so much time at my grandmother's house. And she would have her bridge club and her garden club. And I would go and like, refill the coffees for all those ladies and just talk to them and ask them questions and get wisdom from them. And so I had all these other people that were influencing me that at an
Yeah.
early age, I could really see like, okay, my own mother is not the best role model for me at this point in my life. Like, and so I could find other role models, like from a very early age. I was like middle school and just knew like, okay, like you live in this house with me, but it's okay. I don't always have to really like take everything you say as the golden rule. Like there's so many other perspectives out there, but it's also like so motivating for me because I mean, my mom is still alive. She's doing her thing. I think she's really happy, but like none of us talk to her. There's 6 of us kids. Nobody talks to her.
Mhm.
And she does her thing, we do our thing. And like we all have great lives and everyone's like, yep, like it's fine. We have other great people in our life. And so I feel like, is she sad that she doesn't talk to us? I'm sure. Are we sad? No. Are there relationships like that out there? There's a lot of them. Like you meet a lot of people our age who have estranged relationships with their parents like that. And I just feel like these are the exact things like she never figured out how to hack herself. She
Right.
never figured out like how to do those things to get her back to her good spot. And so she started having those rant days until that's all she had, you know? And so I feel like all the moms out there, if you're like starting to have more rant days than the good days, like, let's get you the tools you need. Let's help you. Like, let's
Right.
you with other good people. Let's give you some perspective. And yeah, so
Well,
that's
and what I love about what you said, because we live in a society where it's very easy to be a victim, right? You can look at your childhood and say, oh, but my parents messed me up. And so that's why I am the way I am. And you just have to deal with me the way that I am. And we do live in a society where there's an excuse and a reason. And a lot of times it's a valid reason for why we behave the way we do. And I heard something the other day where it's like, it's not your fault, but it is your problem to solve.
hmm,
It's not your fault. Your childhood isn't your fault. The way that your first boyfriend treated you isn't your fault. The way that, it's not your fault, but it is yours to solve. And
mm-hmm.
that gives you so much power and control, right? Because Brenda, you could easily have gone a completely different direction in life where you ended up like, well, this is what motherhood looks like. And you didn't. You're like, no, this is not what motherhood has to look like. I'm going to create something new. And
Yeah.
that's amazing. And to give people that gift as well. But it's just we live in a society where it's very easy to find reasons for why we behave the way that we do. And it's like, no, solve it.
Yeah. Yeah. What's
Don't
the
let that be your reality.
saying? It's like, do you want to fight for your limitations or fight for your excuses? Or do you want to fight for how you're going to win? Like,
Right.
which one do you want to spend more time justifying?
And it's a choice. You get to make
Yeah.
that choice every single day. And there are days I try to make that choice. I try. There are days that I'm like, no, I'm going to be in a bad mood today. And you know what? I'm just going to be in a bad mood. And I usually announce it to everybody around me because I'm like, I'm in a bad mood today. And they're like, this is you in a bad mood. And I'm like, yes. Because usually when you vocalize it and put it out there, it becomes comical.
Yeah.
Right, like it really becomes to the point where you're like, this is ridiculous. Like, why am I even in a bad mood? And you can snap yourself out of it. That's another hack that I have. The more I announce I'm in a bad mood, the less I can be in a bad mood.
Right. Yeah. Cause then it's like you turn into a cartoon version of your own self.
Yes.
Yeah.
So like just snap out of it. There's no reason. Like,
Angry.
I'm so mad. Right. It seems ridiculous when you start to vocalize it instead of just acting that way.
It's like my toddler, my 4-year-old. He will like announce his emotion, which is like my other son. That's never anything that he did. He couldn't even like identify what his emotion was at that age. And so my 4-year-old will be like, I'm feeling really frustrated right now. I'm angry right now. Leave me alone. I want to be angry.
Perfect.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm like, okay, buddy. So which then, then somebody's usually trying to tickle him or something like that. But yeah, it's true. It's like as soon as we like us just identifying the way we
Yeah.
feel, it's just like labeling it and saying this
Yeah.
is how I feel, all of a sudden like gives you freedom within that.
Well, it releases the power that it had.
Yeah.
I mean, that's it really it does. And I kind of forgot that until I just said it out loud. I was like, I need to go back to doing that.
Isn't it funny how like things just come out of your mouth that are the things that we have to hear ourselves? Like stuff comes out
Yes.
of my mouth and I was like, I just told myself that.
Yeah, always.
Yes.
Always.
Yes. Like, oh, that was for me. That was totally for me.
Not for anyone else.
Yeah, exactly. So your one of your biggest phrases I know in your family is that structure provides freedom.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about how that works in your household.
Um, in our house, it starts with like our morning routine is really just the more structured that we can be so that we can get done what we need to get done and get those out of the way, then you get the freedom the rest of the day. Because what happens when we get off of our routine, what ends up happening is I get in a bad mood and announce it, right? And then I angry clean because I'm like, I'm going to punish everybody by cleaning the house, which is the most ridiculous thing. And I know so many moms who do it. And I'm like,
Yep.
nobody's getting punished but you. But like, I do it.
Very
And I'm like,
cleaning. Yep.
right. And I'm like slamming doors and stuff, but nobody cares because the house is clean. But I think when it comes to the structure, the more structure you have in place around the way you want your life to be, then it's like, okay, now we get the freedom because it's not chaos. We're not always playing catch up,
Yeah.
if that makes sense. So, I mean, we're not so structured to the point where it's like at noon on Sunday, we're going to go for a bike ride. But it's like, no, we have all these things we need to get done. You have to do laundry, you have to do dishes, there's just things you have to do. The more structure you can put around those, then your free time's free time.
Yeah.
100%. And I know like we have a house cleaner who comes in once a month. And the days after she's there, she comes in on a Friday. That next Saturday, I'm like, but I'm used to cleaning on Saturday. What am I supposed to do? But it's the structure of having stuff done. And and it really is too. And like with Alex and I and like our fitness and everything that we do, our mornings are like clockwork. I don't even have to think anymore because I've now conditioned my body and my mind to just know this is what you do at this time. So that by the time I get home from the gym, I've accomplished more in that 2 hours than I know a lot of people do in an entire day. And it now, because of the structure we put in place, it's autopilot.
Yeah.
Like I don't even have to convince myself to get out of bed anymore. It's just like, nope, I get out of bed, I brush my teeth, I put my shoes on, I take all my supplements, I do my 10 minutes of reading before we go to the gym. We go to the gym. I don't even think about it. And so that's where like the longer you can have those different structure things in place, it just becomes a part of your identity and what you do. And we're constantly working with our kids on that too. When it comes to like our kids and chores is like always the battle. We have a chore chart. We have all these things. They forget a lot. Forget. They're like, oh, I forgot to take the garbage out. But it is the more that you can put into place, like, okay, we get home from school, we do our homework, we do chores, and then we get free time. The more you put those things into place and actually implement them, the more it becomes just a habit. And then you don't even have to, you have the freedom then that you don't have to snap at your kids about doing chores.
Right.
So
lining things up with certain times of the day or pairing it where it goes together with this other thing. Yeah. It was like Atomic Habits talked about.
I love James Clear, like so much of his teachings. I followed him for years, way before Atomic Habits even came out. And so when he came out with the book, I was like, yes, put it all together.
Which did you see his YouTube video where he was saying that his book is not even about habits, but the title he actually wanted to call it, like nobody would have bought it because everybody already knows what habits mean. But like what I forget the phrase he uses, but it's like, you know, conditional choices, blah, blah, blah. I don't know, whatever, like scientific term where it's like actually not even habits because it is a different part of your brain.
Right.
It's just so fascinating where it's like you are still making these decisions, but it's a decision that's an easy yes. So you just keep doing it. Yeah. Or even like Charles Duhigg, The Power of Habit. That book was fascinating because it talked about like people who have brain injuries or stroke, but how they could still like wake up, put on their shoes, go check the mail, do all these things because it was a different part of their brain that it was operating from instead of like having to know where they are or like.
Right. And so you reminded me of something else too, is like, we all get decision fatigue, and especially as moms, like I can't tell you my least favorite question in the entire world. Tell me if you resonate with me, is what's for dinner? Like the moment someone asks me, I'm like, I don't know. Why do I have to be the one who always makes this decision? And I do better when I have structure around that too. Cause like if I actually sit down on Sundays and plan out the week, I'm like, this is what's for dinner. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. But the more that you can put into place on autopilot, the more you can create those habits, the more you can create that structure. You don't have that decision fatigue anymore because you didn't have to make those decisions. And so it was, I think Steve Jobs and Mark Zuckerberg both wear black all the time.
Right.
Right. Because, I think it was Steve Jobs who said it, that, you know, it eliminated that decision in the morning. So he could because you only have so much.
And that's one more decision he had for something else.
Right. Right. And so, and that's the same thing with like any structure you put in place, which is why our mornings are literally like just everything. I mean, to the point where now, like I make my side of the bed before like, as soon as I get out, I make my side of the bed, and it's just a habit because then I don't have to come back later and be like, oh, the bed's not made. Sometimes the other half isn't made and I have to do that.
Well, do you ever do the thing where you make the bed and like Alex is still in? Like I'll sometimes like get up and I like make my side of the bed and Mike is actually still in his side of the bed, but I'm like trying not to be where I'm like not doing it as like a way to be a jerk and be like, you should get out of bed and make the bed with me, but as a way of like, you're cool, but I just have to do this for me.
like 100%. And I don't care. You do it or you don't. It doesn't matter, but I need this for me. Like, because when I get back, I need it. I need my pillows lined up. I need it. It's just need it for me.
I just can't like come back from dropping off the kids from school and walk into my bedroom and have it look blah.
Right.
Like, I just have to have it like ready for the day. It's already greeting me, you know, like I drop off kids and I'm back at 8 o'clock and I want like at 8 a.m. to be greeted by like order.
Yeah.
So
And it's just easier. That's, I do all my morning chores. Like I try to do it before I ever take the kids to school. Cause that way when I come home, the kitchen's already clean. And it's like, oh, and it frees you up. I think
it
that's
does.
where like
And
the
then you're like, now
structure
I
creates
can,
freedom.
yeah, now I can do
Yeah.
this, and this. I don't have it hanging over my head. Yeah.
I love it.
So we're like getting up to an hour, but something that I definitely wanted to have you talk about is your family meetings, because this is something that I know a lot of families are like, they do them or they don't, or it's inconsistent. You guys have created this really cool system around family meetings that I think is so cool. So I want you to share about that.
So we actually wrote a family meeting planner. So we have that. So if anyone's interested in it, let me know and I can definitely share it with you. And part of the reason we did that is because we used to have notebooks all over the place. Where our family meetings actually started, because we're a blended family, is, and we're very, very fortunate that we worked very well with the other parents. So when we had all of the three older kids, we had all of them at the same time, or we didn't have them. But what would happen is when we would get all of them back, it was a total massive reset of like, now we're back in a house with five kids. Everybody has different dynamics. And so that's really why we started doing family meetings, is because we're like, okay, this is our family reset. And we start out with like a personal check-in. Everybody, we go around the table and everybody gives a check-in of like, okay, my week's been really rough. And that way we can kind of rally around each other, or they get to share something amazing. And then we just go through the schedule. And part of the reason of going through the schedule is that I got tired of owning it. And everyone constantly asking me, what do we have going on today? What do we have going on tomorrow? What do we have going on this weekend? And I'm like, nope, we're all going to share it all at the same time. And that way I no longer control that, because I
Mm-hmm.
wanted everyone else to control it as well. And then oftentimes it's really just like, what are the things that are important to our family that we need to talk about?
Mm-hmm.
Are there things that aren't going well? Are there things that are going well? We created our family core values out of that. And so everyone in our family got to take part in what our core values are. And so now we get to go back to those core values and say, hey, you guys said these were our core values. We haven't been adventurous enough later. We need to go on an adventure.
Mm-hmm.
But we really started doing it to get that reset with all of the kids so that we could all get back on the same page. And everybody used to have notebooks, and we would lose them and we would lose track of the things that we talked about. And that's why we created our own family meeting planner, because it really has everything in it so that every week we can look back and say, oh, remember last week we talked about like scheduling a volunteer time for our family. We didn't do that. Who wants to be responsible for that? And we can make everybody in the family responsible for different things. The other thing the family meeting planner has is just like that core values exercise, and it walks you through how to do the personal check-ins. So it gives you the guidance on how to do it. The biggest thing, like I give families for recommendation on it, is don't make it too complicated. It's
Yeah.
not a time for like mom and dad to come in and lecture the kids on anything. It's not a time for, to pick out one of the kids of like, you aren't doing your chores. That's not what it's for. It's literally just a time for the family to connect and get on the same page. And so, like the other night, we didn't even pull out our family meeting planner. We were sitting around the kitchen island eating dinner, and we're like, hey, let's run through this really quick. And everyone in the family knows the routine to where like my 7-year-old can lead the meeting. He knows.
Yeah.
He's like, okay, it's check-ins, go through the schedule, and then here's what we're going to talk about. And
Yeah.
sometimes it's 15 minutes, and sometimes it turns into an hour depending on what everyone wants to talk about. But
Yeah.
I mean, and it's actually funny, our kids, like I can't tell you how many PowerPoint presentations we've gotten at family meetings. Like our oldest wanted an iPhone. And we had a rule at the time. We can't do the rule anymore because flip phones don't exist, but they got a flip phone for the first year, and then they could get a smartphone after that. They had to show us they were responsible. That year that she had her flip phone, we got like so many PowerPoint presentations at family meetings because she's like, here's why I should have an iPhone. And she would present the whole thing for us.
That's
Um,
good. Those are great life skills.
Great life skills. And that's one of the things too, like we've taught our kids how to be leaders and how to lead a meeting. Because I also worked in corporate. I've worked a million jobs. I can't tell you how many meetings I've got to, and the person facilitating it has no idea how to run a meeting. And I'm like, this could have just been done by an email. And now, like, there's an hour of our life that has been taken because they never learned the skill of running a meeting and having an agenda. So our kids have learned that. Plus, they've also learned how to communicate.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how do I ask for what I want? How do I present? If you want to get a raise at work, how do I present this? And we've taught them along the way by in a safe space, right? Because if they mess up here, who cares?
Yeah.
So and it's been fun, like with our kids. We were out to dinner one night and it was a Sunday night and we usually do them on Sunday nights. And our little guy was like, okay, family meeting, go. And we're like, I guess we're just doing it at the restaurant.
Yeah, that's awesome. And now I know before you would do them separate from dinner. Like it was not part of dinner because you
We
wanted dinner to be just
usually do.
conversation. Yeah.
So we usually do. I prefer dinner to be very organic conversation, like when
Yeah.
we sit down. So to where it doesn't have to be structured. Let's just talk. And
Yeah.
then the family meetings being something completely separate. Sometimes they overlap because that's just the way it works.
Yes. And well,
Right.
now that it's become light and easy for
Yeah.
the kids because it's routine, they don't mind that it's in a dinner. But I think for a lot of families, if they're just starting out, it's key to separate it so that it doesn't become where like they feel like, oh, dinner's going to be this whole,
Right.
meeting situation. Yeah.
Right. And as parents, like set your expectations real low. Like your teenagers, if you have them, are going to roll their eyes. Your little ones are probably going to be running around the table. Just don't expect it to be anything. Just allow it to be a space where your family can communicate openly within a structure.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, because as soon as you start to set expectations, you get mad because it's not going to go the way you wanted it to. I mean, and we started when our 9-year-old was probably 1 or 2.
Okay.
So
That's what I was going
she
to
was,
ask was how
yeah,
young to start.
because she was a part of it. You know what I mean? And it's like and it's good for them to get into that rhythm then, because then it just becomes a part of their life. And then you don't get the eye rolls later when you're like, we're going to have a family meeting. And they're like, what in the world is that? I don't want to do that.
Yeah. It's just part of the routine, just like going to bed or waking up and
Yeah,
eating breakfast or whatever. It's just, it happens. It's part of the like rhythms. Yeah.
it's just what we do.
Yeah. That's cool. Yeah. We do like, so I'll do like little powwows with the kids. So every day on the way to school, as soon as we pass a certain tree, we turn off the music and we have like our quick little powwow of like, this is what's going on. This is what time I pick you up. This is what's happening after school. Like dad has this meeting tonight, or, babysitter's
Yeah.
coming at this time, whatever the little thing is, like a quick regrouping of what that day is going to look like for them. So then when they get picked up, they know like, okay, mom's picking up today, or dad's picking up today, or babysitter's picking up today, or, like whatever is happening, that they just know what to expect. And so it's just funny because then we like to listen to a lot of audiobooks on the way to school and on the way home. And so there's sometimes where we'll be listening to it and we pass the tree and the kids are like, Mom, pass the tree. You got to turn it off. You got powwow time. And so I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
you're right. And they just know, like, because
Yeah.
they come to expect getting that information and feeling clued in. And I mean, we share everything with them. Like, when we're trying to make decisions on where to go for a trip, everybody gets to
Mm-hmm.
put in like their opinion on it. Of course, like we have final say, but it's like, okay, do you want to stay at this hotel, that hotel, or that hotel? Or, we like to include them in all the decisions that we're making. And a lot of that happens in these kind of like meeting situations. But I think for some families, they get kind of scared of the word family meeting because it just feels like it's going to be this thing, because maybe we grew up with like, the family meeting was when your parents tell you they're getting divorced, or the family meeting is when they
Right.
really weird, heavy stuff to you. And you're like, I don't want those, but
Well, and that's why keeping it light. And that's why it's like literally everybody gets to share and then it's the schedule. And if it goes beyond that, like that's what I say to start with. And so when I was in high school, I had a friend whose parents were both psychologists, which now I understand why they probably did this. But I happened to be at her house one night and they're like, oh, we have to do a quick family meeting. I was like, I don't have a clue what that is because my family would never have done that. And I'm like, should I leave? And they're like, no, you can stay. And we stood in their kitchen and all they did was just talk about like, hey, what's going on in your life? And then what do we have on the schedule this week? So we know where everyone's going to be at different points. And I was like, this is the coolest thing. Like I thought it was so cool. And it was not monumental. It was not like a big life lesson. It wasn't, and it's not intended to be. Like if you
yeah,
want to give your kids life lessons, give them life lessons. Just don't do it at the family meeting
yeah,
because then they won't want to come.
yeah, yeah, totally. That's so good. I love that. And I love that you made your own planner for it too. Like, so good. So
We
well,
had to because there wasn't anything that we found that existed. So it was finally like, we just have to write this.
yeah. So we'll have to make sure that we have a link for that
Okay.
we can share, so that people can find it and find you. Now, before I forget, where can people find you, and tell everybody about like what programs that you offer? Because I know you teach some of this stuff to other families
Mhm.
and other moms. So tell us where they can find you and what kind of stuff is available.
Yes. So easiest way is Instagram, just at Lisa Montrose. It's in my name there. Like it's right there if I can see it. Hopefully it stays there. So I'm not awkwardly pointing at anything.
Or
Um,
spell it if somebody's listening to podcast.
LISAMONTROS. So there we go. So that's the best place to find us. So a couple different programs that we offer. We do have our family stuff, and just reach out on that. So we can do individual coaching on those. We also have a group coaching program that we do for that, in conjunction with the family meeting planner. And the goal is really within 12 weeks to get you to launch your family meeting and get it to be a rhythm and for you to be able to do it on your own. A lot of challenges come up when you first start it. And so that's why we offer like the support during that, because people will do one and then stop, or they'll do two and then stop. And it's like you just getting into a rhythm with that. The other thing, really, because I focus with moms on fitness and nutrition, and part of that is I know moms don't give themselves anything. Like they typically pour into their family, their friends, everything else, and they don't pour into themselves. And so by really giving yourself and your physical body even an hour a day to focus on that frees up so much more and helps build confidence. It's amazing what a change in your physical well-being will do for everything else. And so I do focus on that as well. You can find that program. I think that program's actually linked on Instagram. I can't remember, but just message me. And then we also do membership building for businesses, but that would be a little bit outside of this. That's more on the entrepreneur side.
Yes, which there's a mix of in this community, and then eventually, wherever other people are
Yeah.
listening, there's entrepreneurial families, and then there's some that are still, they're working like corporate jobs, or maybe they have side hustles or whatever it is. So yeah, so I do think that there's a little bit for
Yeah,
every.
we do. It's another one of those things of like when people ask me what I do, I'm like, oh, do you have time? Because
Yeah,
I want to do everything. There's all these things that we want to do, and I want to pour into moms and I want to pour
and
into
they're all
families.
connected. It really
They
is all
do.
connected, because it's like a lot of the mindset stuff also goes with the way you are treating your body and the wellness, and it's like what
Yes.
you're putting into your body and what you're putting into your mind go hand in hand. And so, and like you're saying, like as far as moms, it's like finding yourself again by doing these things for yourself and for your body. And I have learned, it's like when I was younger, I used to work out or give attention to fitness and nutrition because I would focus on the way I wanted to look. Whereas
Right.
now I focus on the way I want to feel. And so I'm
Yeah.
like, I don't even care what I look like in a bathing suit. If I am like ready to rock and roll and have energy all day long, I'm going to keep doing that same thing.
Yes.
So I tried running for a while. I know like running is something that some people really love. And I was like, I'm going to become a runner. I've never really liked running in high school. I hated running. And every sport I played, I loved sports, but every time we'd have to do the running drills, I hated running. But I'm like, I'm going to love running. And so I committed to it like for 2 years. I'm like, I'm going to be a runner. I'm going to do 5Ks. I did a half marathon. And I just learned that I would drain myself. My cortisol would rise. I was like, I guess this is why before I did not like running, because I would go for a run and then I would feel like I needed a 3 hour nap after that. And so it didn't matter how like muscular my legs were or how fit I was or any of those things. If I needed a 3 hour nap every time, I'm not going to do it anymore, because I
No.
want energy to be able to go to the park and go do fun stuff with my kids. So for me, it's like, okay, I'm going to find the thing that gives me more energy. And the same with the stuff I put in my body. It's
Yeah.
like maybe that's why I don't really like sugar very much, because I always need a nap after I eat a bunch of sugar. I'm like, I feel terrible after it. So I'm like, yeah, no, don't want to feel that way. So I'm not going to do that. But
It does. It becomes so much more about how we feel,
yeah,
right? Like it's just, I mean, for me, I got tired of not feeling good. I
yes,
got tired of having brain fog, of being too tired to play with my kids. And I was like, I'm tired of this. Like, I want something different. The physical appearance is a bonus.
yeah,
I mean, yay, but like I want to feel good.
yeah. And most of the time, it's like when we start focusing on the way we want to feel, the outside starts to reflect that
It does.
automatically. And so it's so funny to me, because then sometimes I'll be doing certain types of workouts and they get me to where I feel good. Like I was doing bar 3 like 6 days a week. Like I loved bar 3. And then it kind of changed during the pandemic, because they were doing virtual classes and only
Yeah.
6 people, all these kind of things. So I started mixing in other stuff, started doing a little bit of weight training at home and doing all these other kind of things and hikes and stuff. And so then now I've morphed. And so it's interesting because it's like the things I'm doing now, I'm not doing a 1 hour class 6 days a week, but my body reflects the same amount of energy because the things I am doing, it's like I could just do like a quick 10-minute workout in my bathroom when I get out of the shower. And it energizes me that then my body can reflect that energy from the inside out almost. And so it's so magical. And so we don't even have to think about like, oh, I need to make sure I go to the gym for an hour every day. It's like, okay, what is the thing? What is the thing that energizes you? Go do that.
Right.
Jump rope. I love jump rope. I know like everybody's like, doesn't even think, but it like, I feel like I get smacked in the face with a pillow, like giddy whenever I jump rope. I love jump rope. It's so fun.
Oh my gosh, I love that. Did you ever do jump rope for heart as a kid? Do you remember jump rope for heart?
Jump
It's
rope
in like elementary school, and you would raise money depending on how long you could jump rope for. I used to love it. I haven't jump roped since then.
We did not do that, but we would do like where there was the really big ones.
Oh, the double dutch.
And you have two of them, and then you go faster. Oh, I love that.
Brenda, we need to get some Arizona moms together and do some double dutch.
Yes, I gotta relearn how to do it.
So do I, but let's do that and then get everyone together.
No, I just picked up pickleball. That's like my new exciting thing. I was like, well, I like water sports during the summer. I love kayaking and paddleboarding. So like I'm always up your area come summertime going on all the water up there. But right now it's too cold for that. So we're doing I just learned pickleball and I'm in a league and I got Mike to join me and then he's
up.
Now we got paddles for the whole family and we just go to the courts behind our house and go play there. And yeah, it's fun. Like that's the kind of stuff I feel like I don't like, we don't have to overthink this whole nutrition and fitness thing. It's just like, go do the fun thing. Like go jump go jump on a trampoline. Yeah. Be a kid again. Yeah.
Yes. Enjoy it.
Yes. Yeah. Riding a bike, like with the wind in your hair. I always love that feeling too.
Yeah, we do a lot of bike riding now. Our little ones really just learned how to ride their bikes. And so now every day they're like, can we go for a bike ride? I'm like, yes.
Yeah, we're like total desert. Because we're kind of like in this area where all the houses are spread out and there's a lot of desert in between. Oh my gosh. So the amount of inner tubes that we go through out here because it's just riding through desert and thorns. But yeah, but it's fun. So it's like trying to keep the tires inflated, but it's so fun. We love that stuff. Well, let me see here. If there's any other quick questions. Was there anything else you want to tell us about or anything else you want me to ask you?
I don't think so. We covered just about everything.
No, that was fun. For everybody out there, Lisa and I have been trying to hang out for a long time.
A long time.
So like selfishly, like a lot of these interviews for all of you guys who I'm sending invitations to interview, just know that like I just selfishly want to hang out with you for like an hour and just talk to my friends. So because all of you guys are so wise and I can't wait for you to share your wisdom and your knowledge with all the fellow mamas out there. So well, this was wonderful.
It was so fun.
Yes. All right. Well, I'll have you send me the link to planner stuff and then we'll make that available to people. So if they're interested in getting more information about the planner, everybody go follow Lisa on Instagram because her reels are really fun, just like her. And she gives so much great information about optimizing and systemizing things in your house. She's a genius at that. So yay, this was so fun. All right. Well, we'll wrap this up. Oh, you know what? Hold on. Let me real quick check and make sure we don't have any questions over on the live stream. Before we go, I think we're good. It's frozen, so I'm not gonna worry about it. All right.
Let me know. I'll answer them somewhere else.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much. This was wonderful. Thank you, Lisa.
Awesome. Thanks, Brenda. We'll talk to you later.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.